Welcome back. Today we're talking about employee feedback. Employee feedback may seem a little strange for us to talk about as we're experts in vulnerable populations. So why would we be talking about employees? Well, turns out employees are vulnerable, just like many other groups. This vulnerability may not be as apparent as those that are homeless or refugees or experiencing domestic violence, but employees are often in a situation where they don't feel comfortable giving legitimate feedback because they're afraid they may lose their job, their promotions, their raises, or any other situation that limits their ability to grow. This situation can be exacerbated by issues with gender disparities or diversity problems. Any of these type of issues can lead to a situation where employees don't feel comfortable to give feedback. We're going to talk about 5 different facts about employee feedback. And employee feedback is an interesting thing because it's a burgeoning and really growing market here. And there's a lot of different places you can use to try and get employee feedback from. We just want to point out some really interesting trends and facts that might help you as you try and get more feedback from your employees. Or if you're an employer, to think about how you need to give feedback. If you're an employee, to think about how you need to give feedback towards your employer. Number 1, 98% of employees will fail to engage when managers give little or no feedback. I think we've all been there. In a role where we're not sure if we're doing the right thing, we're not sure if we're succeeding, and when a manager doesn't give us an understanding of if we're doing the right thing, if we're making progress, if we're succeeding in their eyes, it's really hard to continue to work through it. Giving feedback, simple, subtle, complex, whatever it is, will help your employees know how you feel about them in the organization and what things are doing well or not. Giving feedback is the quickest way to be able to get employees to engage and care about what they're doing. Number 2, companies with regular feedback processes. Doesn't matter what the process is, but just a feedback process, right? Have a 14.9% lower turnover rate, which is crazy. If you could reduce your turnover rate by nearly 20%, you would save so much money. And you can do it just by having a regular feedback process. Number 3, 43% of highly engaged employees, the ones that you really want and the one you want to be, receive feedback at least once a week. There's this correlation between feedback and engagement that gets tighter and tighter the more you understand it. If you want more engaged and honestly productive employees, give them more feedback. Number 4, unsurprisingly, employees want more feedback. In fact, in one survey, 65% of employees that were surveyed said they wanted more feedback from their managers and from their employers. This feedback can be easy to give them if you just take some time or you implement a feedback system. Number 5, 44% of organizations, significant number, use technology to try and help them have a good feedback process. And that feedback process definitely matters. And the use of technology has led to an increase of engagement, an increase of employee happiness, and a drop of turnover. Now, the interesting thing about that statistic is that it means that 56% of organizations, or more than half of them, don't use technology to be able to capture feedback. And my question is, why not? If you knew there was a way to be able to get good feedback, and we've already gone over all the other reasons why, lower turnover, higher engagement, happier employees, if there was a way to gather feedback that didn't require you having any additional effort, why wouldn't you do it? Now, take the Pulse for Good system, for example. One Pulse for Good kiosk could sit in a place where people could come and interact with it. Employees could come and do it in a break room or wherever. It may cost you somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000 a year to run, which admittedly can be a little pricey for some organizations. But if you can drop your employee turnover by 20% by just having a feedback process, how much are you paying to replace 1 in 5 of your employees every year? Probably far more than that $3,000 to $5,000 that you'd be paying for a kiosk. Now, like I said, the Pulse for Good system is fairly expensive, and there are some better ways to do it, depending on the size of your organization and depending on the situation that you're in. A simple online survey, for example, could give you some of the similar benefits as the Pulse for Good system at a fraction of the cost. Now, you'll miss out on a tremendous amount, but it is still a feedback process that you could start today and try and lower that turnover rate, all while gaining all of the other benefits that you're seeking. I hope you enjoyed these different facts about employee feedback. And I hope that you, as either an employee or an employer, think about how you could give feedback more effectively. I also highly recommend that you try and look at some of the technology that you can use to give feedback and get feedback, because it can take that burden off of your shoulders and give you all of the benefits with very little work.